How's it going, everybody? Rye right here today, and we are back with more NHL 25 news. And today, guys, it is the big one. It is franchise mode deep dive. And before I even jump into any of it, it's a 17-minute, 44-second deep dive. We love to see that. So many of the deep dives in the past have been like 5 minutes, 6 minutes. And it's like, how deep is a deep dive that's just like 5 minutes long? You're not even getting to the monetization threshold, if you will. But we're not worried about that today. We got 17 minutes. I haven't seen it yet. I've been active on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, looking at some of what the other content creators, those in the know, those in the EA Game Changer program, or the Creator Network they call it now, I think it is, and they've been hyping this up. So I've been cautiously optimistic. I was very nervous, guys, and I just I had just a meeting, and I'm finally here with you guys, ready to react to this trailer. You guys will get my thoughts on it, and we'll go through it together live. So here we go, the franchise mode deep dive.
Hey everyone, this is Gern Sumo, Senior Game
Designer
for...
Okay, all right. That already looks 1,000 times better. We actually have stats. And ranks and matchups, and this kind of looks like the Be A Pro one. The Be A Pro, with the left, it's just reminding me the LBRB over there on the left, trying to get us that stuff. I see a Y button that gets us now to the box scores up at the top right. Those are just kind of flashing through. We'll see, but LT-RT can get us through maybe the matchups for our next opponent. Ooh, okay. All right. Let's see. I'm going to stop interrupting him.
NHL 25. Today I'm here to talk to you about franchise mode. So there's a few new things going into franchise mode. Everything from a brand new Streamline Hub, box scores, game logs, and split stats.
Game logs and split stats. Let's go. Oh, that's so small. All right, we're gonna watch it all, and then I'll pick some stuff out.
Everything from a brand new Streamline Hub, box scores, game logs, and split stats, contract clauses and CBA updates, revamped player and coach conversations, and some community requested tuning changes that we did.
All right, so far so good.
Over here we have our brand new Streamline Hub. It's a unique change from previous years. The goal here was to make less tabbing and surface more information for you as users to be able to get the most information possible to make educated decisions.
I love that, because there's so many times where I don't know what my next opponent is going to be. I don't know how good they are. I don't know who they're going to start in goal. That's awesome. The projected starting goaltenders, right? But you can see that Ottawa, we're playing them, and they're not very good at scoring or getting scored on, but their power play, their special teams are dangerous, right? Top 10 special teams. So don't take penalties, and we should be fine against this team. And then you can see the team leader in points. I love the fact that it's just a scroll on the left to see everything. There's no more swiping between menus that look laggy, they are not very visually appealing. And I think that's one of the things here that is very visually appealing, is just it's clean.
So you'll see a brand new quick links on the left-hand side here. Everything that's really important is showing up here. So all that stuff that needs to be done on a more regular basis is there at your fingertips. You'll also notice a bunch of new widgets that are on the screen. You'll have the projected goalie widgets. I'll show you the goalies that are about to start for that game, as well as on that right-hand side, a matchup widget showing you how you're matching up against the opponent you're about to play, as well as the conference standings, division standings, your team leaders from forward points, defense points, all the way down to rookie and goalie wins. And then you have your league leader stats as well. And then on top of that, we've added the ticker that's in the trade deadline minigame at the bottom, which will continuously feed you information as you go from screen to screen as well.
It's giving NHL 14, and I could not be happier.
You're able to access the calendar and then also tab through to go through all the various tabs that you would have had access last year, in addition to a few new tabs that allow you to talk to players and coaches. Going into
that was any topic. So from what I saw, you could just chat about any topic.
To box scores will bring up all the games that are played in the NHL. So all 1,300 plus games, or if you have a custom league, all however many games you've chosen to do. You can go to any game, not just your own teams. You can go to any game and select a game and view the box score for that game.
That's huge. Being able to look back at not just your games, but other games around the league, it's just going to make franchise mode so much more immersive. And it's not just box score for the day, and if you hit advance, it goes away. It's box scores for the season. Now, I'm sure we're going to see some funky stuff, but that's great.
I can view the events that are from that game, who scored, what penalties were there, as well as the stats for each individual player on both teams, and including the 3 stars as well. So you'll get a really good snapshot of everything every single game that happens in the NHL. And to feed into that stats motif that we got going on, we also have added new game logs and split stats for each individual player. So if I go into Elias Pettersson here, I can check out his full career stats, and you'll notice that there's a new filter that's shown here, which is full career stats. Now you got game logs and split stats. So if I go into game log, I can look at every single game that he has played in this year, the standard stats that we track from minutes, shots, goals, assists, points, with date of the game, and the opponent of the game as well. So you can see how that player is doing against every single team on a per game basis. In addition, you can also
So I love that, because there's so many times in franchise mode as somebody who doesn't want to play the games and wants to be more of the GM and not interfere. I'll make a line change and the team will perform, but I don't, unless I memorize everybody's stats, I don't know over the last like 2 weeks worth of games. I don't know how they've performed better or worse, or if the line changes have made a difference, or if somebody's carrying but the line is just bad, right? So this will give me the ability to see if I make those line changes, what the differences are.
also see the split stats. So you can see their last 10 games, their home split, their away split, their division split, conference, and on top of that, their monthly and then their per team stats. So how they have done against Florida, how they've done against Edmonton, Chicago, etc. And
that's kind of fun if you've got like a series against, like, so for example, if you're the Vancouver Canucks and you're playing the Edmonton Oilers, right? Maybe Pettersson has got in 4 games against him this season, he's got 8 points, right? So that'll be exciting in the playoffs to be like, he's been an Oiler killer so far this season. Can that continue? That'd be super fun to see.
And then lastly, we've also added an awards tab to the player info, and you'll be able to view any award that that player has won throughout their entire career. So it's not just the last 5 years. If you have Alex Ovechkin, could be something that he won back in the 20.
Also, it's just super clean. I love the look of the UI this year. I know people were making jokes that it's a different colored UI. That's all they changed, but this is great. You can see how many times they've won it. I wish I could see when they won it, right? Obviously, the Ted Lindsay, he's won it 3 times. What were all 3 times? I guess that's not the biggest thing in the world right now, but 9-time Rocket Richard, right? Just being able to click on it and see a list. I know the last one's nice, but everything is looking super clean.
2010s, all that shows up on this screen and for you to play and look at with throughout the course of franchise mode.
Big. I'm excited for this section. If they're gonna, I saw like no movement clause and stuff. Let's see what they got.
One of our biggest fan requests is we added no move, no trade clauses to the game. In addition, we also overhauled our contract negotiation system to fit that in. So now you'll notice when you come into the free agency screen, you'll see an org interest bar.
I love that. I love that. The ability to have a free agent, to know if they're interested in me or not, and have free agents be interested in certain teams, right? Like Besser doesn't want to come back, I guess, to the Canucks. So I mean, that just kind of makes sense, right? Like, I shouldn't be able to just go after him and throw a ton of money at him.
Every single player has a contract interest bar and an organization interest bar, and those will now dictate whether or not a player will want to sign with your team. So if a player has a very low organization bar, you may need to convince him to actually join your team. Those 2 bars now dictate and change who you target in free agency, because it may not be possible for you to get the best free agent because they may not like your organization because of the taxes that you have, the market size that you have, your status as a contender. If they want to be playing on a championship team and you're a rebuilder, they may not want to join your team. Now, you can offer them other incentives. You'll see promises on the bottom right-hand corner and player requests. Certain players will have requests that they would like to have, like playing on the top line power play or playing in the first line. And you'll also be able to give up.
And I see there's a start negotiation. There was an offer contract and an enter negotiations with the player when you clicked on in free agency. And then so when you offer the contract, you can apparently push Y or triangle to start a negotiation. And that's probably where you start filling in the your promises. Like, I will give you a full no movement clause, and he might bump up his current interest.
No clauses. So you'll see that you can give out no movement clauses, no trade clauses, modified no trade clauses. You can give out different.
Dude, actually having a 4-team no trade clause, actually having to deal with that is awesome. 10% trade protection, does that mean like I can up the amount of teams? So 50% trade protection would probably be like a 16-team no movement clause. That's incredible. I
Team
love it.
structures, whether reduced, full, it'll change the number of teams that you can or cannot be traded to. So we've added a lot of depth and a lot of fidelity to the contract negotiation engine that wasn't there before. I'll go into a player that doesn't want to.
Oh, I don't know if you guys have noticed, watch as he's tabbing through the current offer for contract. That bar is moving as he's tabbing different things. Right, so as he's tabbing between no movement clause and no modified no trade clause, Draisaitl's current offer contract is changing. That's huge.
To sign with my team currently. Give you an example of what I mean in terms of you have to persuade that player. Now, Sam Bennett here doesn't want to join my team. You're able to do certain actions to potentially win them over. You can charm them. You can gain some organization interest if they take to it. So in this case it did, which is great. Now you can now talk about the contract or go into the organization and kind of pitch him on the organization. So if I go into here, I can now pitch him on the market size and the team status and persuade him into wanting to join my team and forego his expectation of preferring to play in a smaller market like Florida. So
I think it's going to be so much fun just for making videos on the channel. I think that's going to be super cool. We're going to have some guys that are just going to have heel turns on the channel, probably because of negotiations like this.
In this case, it's very risky to do so. It may negatively affect the organization, which may basically mean I'm out of the running completely. But if I do persuade him and it is successful, I can get him to join my team. So in this case, it's successful. And then if I go into organization, you'll see the bar go up to full. So now I have persuaded him into wanting to potentially join my team, which is huge. So he went from not interested at all to being persuaded into joining my team. And now I can go and offer him a contract.
It moved. Do you see that? You see that organization? It filled up because you convinced him that like this is a good fit for you. And now you dive into the contract. Ooh.
First offer that you see here, the number of years will always be what that player wants. You can go through and select different years. They may or may not accept a 1-year deal. So if you do select 1 year or 2 years, they may say, I'm not interested in that and just end the conversation there. But if you go into the 4 years, they will let you go in and start negotiating. So negotiate will try to make a more team-friendly deal. So the higher your organization bar, the more likely you can negotiate a player down in salary. You can also improve the offer if you like. This allows you to add extra money, clauses, promises to your contract offer. So if I want to increase the salary here, I can increase it up by a lot or a little. So I'll add 2 million to the salary, but I can also improve the offer further by adding in a clause. So I can give him a full move, no trade, whatever it may be. I'm going to give him a full no move clause, as well as I'll promise him first line minutes. So
those are going to be huge. I like to be able to negotiate the contract with the player. Like this is actual contract negotiations. This little back and forth. This is what we've asked for a long time. Is like to actually like, don't just let me give an offer, wait 4 days and, oh, sorry, I don't like that offer. Like this is way more interactive and it'll let you know what you did wrong. And you could potentially do a lot right. Now it's got to be balanced, but this is optimistic. And to just promise first line ice time, and then he's going to get pissed when you don't give it to him. I mean, that's huge.
Will more than likely now want to sign because I have given him the world. You can also table the contract as well. So if you think you've negotiated a deal with the player to the sense, but you want to try out and sign another player just in case, you can table the deal. There's a risk to this, obviously. If another team steps in and offers a contract to them, they may get taken and may sign with another team. So
that's awesome because there's so many times where it's like I would offer both, but I know if somebody accepts before the other person, then I'm just screwed and I won't be able to get the guy I really want. To like go after like maybe a lesser center, and then go after the big number one. Negotiate this with the lesser center, table it for like 2-3 days, negotiate with the number one guy, and if you don't come to a resolution you like, you can just come back to this guy and be like, yeah, no, like let's go for it. That's awesome. That's gonna give me so much flexibility. You guys know I'm already pragmatic enough when it comes to building our teams. This is gonna be awesome.
It's kind of a risk reward on your aspect of it too, whether or not you're willing to take that chance. So in this case, Sam Bennett accepts the offer because it was so good. I gave him a full no move. I gave him $2 million more, and I also gave him a first line promise. So he's now on my team. So I can literally convince him from not wanting to join my team to joining my team through the power of the conversation engine. So next up, with the addition of no move and no trade clauses, obviously when you want to go and trade a player that has a trade clause, you're going to need to figure out what team they can or cannot be traded to. So if we go into Aaron Ekblad here, you'll see he has a modified no trade clause, and you can go into the new.
Ouch. Aaron, come on! You had to throw out the Sabres on your no trade clause. That sucks. I hate that. Obviously, pretty realistic though. It's going to make rebuilds with the Sabres a lot tougher. Some of these bottom feeders right now, the Anaheim Ducks, the Canadiens. Obviously, they've got a little bit of intrigue because they're Quebec and French Canada and Montreal and all that kind of stuff. But like the Sabres, right? It's going to make a Sabres rebuild a lot tougher.
New contract info screen that shows you the trade clause, the years that are left on the trade clause, and the teams that you can trade that player to. So on the right hand side, there's a tradable team list. He can be traded to 20 teams, and there's 12 teams that he has a no trade for. So if I go to Anaheim or Boston or Buffalo, he is an eligible player for me to actually put on the trade block. If I put him on a team that he doesn't have a trade clause for, I would need to actually convince Ekblad to wait.
That's awesome. So actually, thank you, Aaron Ekblad. I judged you too soon. Apparently, he wants to come to Buffalo, so thank you. But doesn't want to go to Carolina, because that makes sense. Hopefully, that is just a weird one-off thing with Ekblad, because I don't know, because I feel like Ekblad would not want to come to Buffalo, considering we've got Dahlin, Power, and Byram now. He'd be like, obviously on the first pairing still, but it's crowded. Anyway.
Waive his no trade clause. So you can go into the proposed trade screen, select the player that you want to trade, and it'll automatically have you initiate a conversation with them. You'll see that I'll have to persuade the player into waiving their no trade clause. If failed, which means I can no longer have Ekblad be eligible to be traded to the Carolina Hurricanes. The other way to get them to talk about their clauses or their options is to actually go in through the new franchise hub. So if I went into Matthew Tkachuk here, I have different options to have him potentially waive his clause or change his clause for the year. I'm able to get him to maybe give me a list of 1 team, 2 teams, 3 teams, or outright waive his no trade clause. So I'm going to ask him maybe give me 1 team that he would want to potentially go for. And in this case, he actually did. So now I can go into Matthew Tkachuk's player card and figure out who he actually wants to be traded to. Now you can see that he has a modified no trade clause, but going to his contract info, he wants to go to the Montreal Canadiens. So I can now add him to the block for the Montreal Canadiens, and then you'll be able to make a trade. The conversation engine allows you to kind of have a little bit of flexibility and how much you want that player to waive, whether it be a fully waive their clause or to kind of select a certain amount of teams. It allows you to pick a riskier or less riskier option to give the player still some agency as well.
I love this. That's so good. That's so much depth, being able to be like, okay, like the Jack Eichel trade, right? So many of the Sabres things are just popping up right now. This is a lot of things that makes like a Sabres rebuild more realistic. Say you're floundering, Dahlin wants out. Obviously, he's got his no movement clause. Who does he want to go to? Give me a list of teams that you want to go to. Just, we obviously this isn't going to work. Oh, you want like Vegas or Boston? Okay, I can negotiate, see which one of those teams gives me the best deal. I think that's awesome.
Another new feature that we've added is our brand new conversation engine. You've seen a little bit of it in the no move, no trade, but we wanted to make every conversation feel important and have a meaningful impact on your team. So gone are the ice time conversations where players are complaining about things. It's now more of a proactive system where you are now assigning players goals or trying to make that player better or try to fit into your system as you need to. If I go into Korchinski,
thank God the ice time, or sorry, I'm not performing well, is gone. I mean, I just love more options here. As long as it doesn't become a burden or cumbersome, I think this could be great.
Here, you'll notice that there's 2 options for me to select from: season goal or on ice play. Each of these has their own subset of items that you'll be able to select through. For season goals, this actually influences player development, something that in the past you as a user didn't really have a lot of influence over. Now you will with season goals.
Season goals, use season goals to give challenges to your players to gain attributes, X factors, and potential? Oh boy.
So you can select a season goal. You'll have two options of short-term goals. So these are half-season goals. They're shorter goals and they give you less of a reward potentially. And then we have long-term goals, which allow you to perform a stat challenge, an award challenge, and then an X Factor challenge. These challenges allow you to give a player potentially an X Factor ability, whether it be a zone or a superstar ability. Award challenges are asking a player to win an award, and by winning that award, they may gain attribute points as well. And then you have stat challenges, which you may ask a player to score X amount of goals, assists, or plus minus or block shots, and they will gain potential ratings impact onto themselves based off of completing that goal. Now, it isn't that it's a hard line, so as long as I'm close, he'll get some of that reward to passing, but he may not get the full amount. So it is really forgiving in that sense, but you do want to get as close as you possibly can to that marker to help influence that player. So in this case, I'll set a goal to have him score 40 assists,
And yeah, so the stat challenge being 40 assists, you saw +1 to +4. I was curious about that. And it probably, if you get over 40 assists, you get +4 to his passing. If you get like 20 assists, maybe you get +1, right, to his passing. So it's not all or nothing. I like that a lot because it's never all or nothing, right? If some player gets injured, but they were on a 70 goal pace, obviously they were on a 70 goal pace. So I think it's still impressive. And a guy that ends up with 39 goals and you challenged him to get 40 shouldn't be criticized. I know the 40 goal mark is a huge mark, but 39 is still pretty darn impressive.
And once that's in there, you'll be able to check out the goal in the morale screen as you sim through a season and you look at their stats and see how they're doing. Now that I've assigned a player goal to that player, I can also go into the on-ice play and potentially have them change their play style or their position. You'll notice on the upper right-hand side of the screen that you have something called adaptability. Every player has adaptability rating. This adaptability rating allows us to control how likely a player will potentially adhere to being able to change to a new playing style or a position that they play. The younger the player, it'll actually make it a little bit more easier for that player to be a little bit more malleable and a little bit more easier for them to learn that new play style or position. So an older player will be a little bit more set in their ways and may not be able to switch to that position or play style, but true to real life as well. So in this instance here, we're able to look at these two options of play style and position. I'll select to change his position. It'll give me options to be either straight up, change him out of left defense. I can move him to right defense as well. These are both persuades and they have different factors that weigh in. So in this case, I want to add a secondary position. To lower his defensive awareness rating, the harder it will be to convince him. If I want to change his position, players with a higher defensive awareness rating will be harder to convince. So players that are really good at defense, they probably don't want to move out from defense. But if the player has a lower defensive awareness, you may be able to get them to change to a forward. Here I'll ask Korchinski to change his position. So in this case, that persuade failed. In many cases, the persuade may.
So you can actually, that's so cool. I'm thinking like Tage Thompson moving from left wing to center. How many like prospects have you drafted in the top 3, the left wingers that have like 80 faceoffs? And you're like, well, he can't technically play center, but he's going to be a center because he's really good at faceoffs. Now you can ask him to go play center for you, or you could Brent Burns a guy and say, okay, you're not doing it for me on the forward side of things, so let's move you to the blue line and we'll see how you do.
May or may not work, but you do have the ability to change a player's position and play style. It all has a multitude of different factors that go into it. Again, we really wanted to give you as the user the ability to have more fidelity, more control over the players to fit within the system that you're trying to build.
I wonder if this means that if I go and do edit a player, does that mean I can't change their position or something like that? Can I just edit the player and skip this if I don't feel like going through this conversation engine or something? I don't know. We'll see. But I'm thinking a two-way defenseman who's just great at offense. I just want to make them an offensive defenseman. I don't want them to be an offensive two-way. No. I want them to be an offensive defenseman because it's going to be better for the chemistry.
So in addition, you can also talk to your head coach. You can talk about your preseason or your game plan for the team. And these essentially are buffs to your team that you get for the season, whether it be conditioning, strength training, skill training, 5-on-5 focus, power play, penalty kill, video session. So all of these will have different buffs and debuffs. I've selected power play. This will give my team a buff for the power play, but also have a debuff on my penalty kill. So in this case, I got him to adhere to that preseason focus. I can go back in and talk to him also about the game plan that he has. So we can talk about preferred lines. He is locked until the regular season, and I'll get into that as well. Ice time allocation is also locked until the regular season, but this will allow you to allocate whether or not you want your team to roll 4 lines, 3 lines, top heavy. It allows you to kind of manipulate that and have the best possible situation for your team. So now that we're here in the regular,
so that means you don't necessarily have to have a coach that fits perfectly. You can actually convince them. That's super cool. Like, you can have actually fluid conversations with your coach to be like, listen, I didn't get a lot of good fourth liners. Our fourth line is trash, but we've got 690 plus overalls. So play the top guys, please, rather than rolling all 4 lines.
Regular season, I'm now able to chat with my coach. So if I'm in the edit line screen, I can hit the Y button to go into strategies and then bring up the coach card from here. I can go into this meeting availability and then chat with the coach about their game plan. So I can now talk to them about their preferred lines or ice time allocation, as that's no longer locked. I can get them to potentially change those things. So in this case, I want him to reorganize or lock players into certain lines. I can now do so. I persuaded them into being open to it. If in the instance where it fails, you can still force the coach to go through this flow. You will lose morale as a trade-off, but at the end of the day, you are the GM and you hire the coach, so you are able to brute force your way through it. So in this case, I want to look at my forwards and I want to have my line 2 center be Elias Pettersson. So if I go into line 2 and center, I can now lock in Elias Pettersson as the center for that line. Now I can also make his left wing. In this instance, I'll just put Jake DeBrusk. And then if I go into that line screen again, you'll notice that when I hit best lines now, those players should now get into that slot. You now see Elias Pettersson and Jake DeBrusk in that role. So if I move Pettersson down to the 4th line here and then I hit best lines, it will always lock them into that line. So if he gets hurt and comes back into the lineup, it will remember that and put him back into the right spot. So you can lock all your lines exactly how you want it and really help the usability for playing with injuries on. So you're able to have your lines always constructed in the way that you want them, and the coach will make sure that they do best lines in that manner. It is quite a cumbersome thing. So this was our way with the power of the conversation engine to allow you to actually lock in players into those lines.
Love that. Absolutely love that. I mean, injuries, they are cumbersome. Like he's mentioned, they're brutal, and you hit best lines, and then just to get one guy back in there, make sure he's on the power play, penalty kill right when your top guys goes out and he comes back. You have to redo all the little changes you made to every line. But if I'm like, I signed this guy to be the 3rd line center, gosh darn it, make him the 3rd line center. Enough said. We're good. I mean, I wonder if you can change it in the future, though. Like, you're like, make this guy the 3rd line center. It turns out the dude's just buns, can't skate can't compete. And you don't want him to be locked in the 3rd line center. Can you say like, hey, actually, don't make him the 3rd line center, please?
Another feature that we added to really help the roster sharing community was the addition of draft picks to the player movement screen. Now you're able to trade 5 years worth of draft picks in the player movement screen to keep up with the real world as you're waiting for the latest roster update from us. So in this case, I can trade Anaheim's and Edmonton's 1st round pick to the Buffalo Sabres, and then you'll be able to go in and see that Buffalo has Anaheim and Edmonton's 1st round pick, and you're able to upload this roster file to roster sharing, and then you'll be able to have others download it with the correct draft picks, and you can then start your franchise mode when the latest trade comes out and you're waiting for the roster update. You'll be able to make the adjustment yourself and then go into franchise mode and start your franchise mode if you need to.
That's a
Thank you. Very, very nice. Ooh, scouting.
big change there, as well as we've added a few more elite potential prospects into the draft. Make the league, as you get later into later years, refresh that player pool, have the overall be around the same amount as well. So
we added a lot to franchise mode this year. We had a lot of fun working on the game, and we can't wait for you to pick up early access on September 27th.
All right, so we are officially, as he mentioned, a week away from early access. And guys, that honestly, that looked pretty good. I'm satisfied with it, right? It's not GM connected, but they already announced it's not coming this year. But that hub, being able to see other box scores, it feels like they're laying the groundwork so that maybe 26, maybe 27, right? I know I'm tired of maybe another year, right? It's been 11 Chells now since we've had GM connected. So that revamped hub, the conversation engine is super cool. The contract rework, that's huge. No trade clause, no movement clause. That's going to add a lot of authenticity and a lot of complexity to the game. So we've got the franchise deep dive. Let's see. Did they drop any news about it? Yeah, here we go. Here's the deep dive blog. So we got a picture of Ovi's chest. Thank you, EA. I'll use that for the thumbnail. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, obviously this looks so much better, guys. Just, I mean, having the points leaders over there and league leaders in different categories, it's nice because you get a snapshot of what's going on without having to stop. Oh, wait, let me think. I should check on who's leading in the goals through 20 games. No, you can see that Sebastian Aho is leading in points. That's interesting. I didn't expect to see him. Right, as well as the head-to-head matchup. I like the projected goaltenders. Everything looks cleaner. It's more readily available. There's less swiping between that. There's such a terrible way to do it. I love seeing my team leaders too. My best forward, my best defender, who's leading the team in goals and assists, the rookie points. Obviously, if you don't have a rookie, Arthur Seelovs is the rookie for the Canucks here, so they have 0 points. As you guys have seen in the Expansion Bros podcast, the Canucks have not been very good at drafting and playing rookies, and then Demko's leading. Quick links, widgets, and the entire league can be viewed at a glance in a ticker. We love that. The box score, this is something that we've been begging for years. We're pumped about box scores, right? We're starting from rock bottom here. Let us be happy about a little something here. To be able to see a random game, he's obviously controlling the Canucks, but we can go, it's November 22nd. We're going back to November 19th to see this Islanders Calgary game. Maybe, they're playing the Senators next. How did the Senators do in their last game? Who's been hot? Maybe check out their last 10 games, something like that. That's really, really nice to be able to see these stats. I wish we got more advanced analytics, right? I'm an analytics guy, expected goals, Corsi, zone starts, whatever they want to give us, I'll take it at this point because plus minus is just not the right way to look at it. Although Kadri and Huberdeau, yikes. Game logs, that is awesome. It's a preseason, so you can see pre-reg and post probably. Or playoffs, something like that. That's awesome. Split stats, right? Is he a home? He's terrible at home. Apparently, Elias Pettersson, really good on the road. It's just this level of depth is what we needed, right? These are some things that we've been asking for years. A lot of quality of life things too. I think the conversation engine is going to be really fun. I think being able to the no trade clause, the contracts, the actual conversations and negotiations with a player. Like, here's the vision I have for you. This is why I want you, and that's so much better. It's going to make it better than, oh, here he looks good. Let me just throw an extra $1.5 million and he should accept. And award tracking, obviously, that is going to be really nice to, I no longer need to use a Google Sheet for this. You can see the org interest here. I love it. It's a bit more authentic. The organizational bars, the contract and organization bar, right? I touched on that in the video. Players may request clauses and you can make promises about ice time and no trade clauses, no movement clauses. So no movement clauses means you can't be moved no matter what. No trade clause just means you can't be traded, but you could be sent down. So they're kind of the same thing. Players that get them are usually the same thing, I think. So anyway, the conversation system, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, the current conversation system, it just hasn't been touched in years, and it's finally going to impact other things. You can get the stat challenges for goals, right? So for example, here we've got... talking about Nils Hoglander's season goals. For a short-term goal, we're looking at a stat challenge. Can he get 20 goals over the first half of the season? He'd get a +1 or a +2 to his accuracy. If he does get that, that's really cool. We can make Nils Hoglander change positions or play style. I love that. Being able to turn, I'm thinking, I'm going to use it to make two-way forwards like playmakers or two-way defensemen, offensive defensemen, making them a bit more unique and, so many times you draft a guy in the top 3 and he's a two-way forward. He's really a sniper, but he's playmaker, or his play style is a two-way forward, so he doesn't really play the way I want him to. You can actually convince him to become a sniper now, or make him a power forward. You're 6'3". Why are you, a two-way forward? Go be a power forward. Be a bit more offensive for me. And then coaches can focus on specific areas. I mean, that's huge, right? If one of the things was last season, our penalty kill let us down, let's focus on it this year. We may sacrifice the power play, but we already had like a 26% power play percentage. It's okay. So that'd be awesome. I don't know if those are temporary boosts. I'd assume they are, right? Right, like you can get a boost, a +2 to defensive awareness for the season, and then it probably goes away in the offseason. So I'd really love to see how that works. That's interesting. And then you can see I love the free agent negotiations. I think that's like the legal tampering period, if you will. Say you have a player you want in the organization. There is no legal tampering period, I don't think. But how did all these deals get signed? Like within 4 minutes of free agency? Yeah. You can charm him, or yeah, they talked about all of this, so you guys can go to the franchise blog. It's fantastic right now. Roster management, player movement, and more. I mean, we saw them talk about locking a player into the third line center, or actually second line center. They said Pettersson should be the second line center, so there it is. And then for those of you that spend hours and hours and hours trying to make custom rosters with the right draft picks, and if you're like, you know what, the Sabres just made a huge trade, they gave up their first, I want to play today with that roster, you could go do it yourself. It's awesome. And then they also added elite potential prospects, more of them, so we can have more elite players. And then CPU teams target extensions and free agents based on team need, the player's organization's interest in their team, and the salary cap space. So it seems like every player is going to have an organizational interest for every team, and CPU teams may target them. And I think there was a screen where we could see just exactly what that was. So I'm pumped for this, guys. I think this is very, very good. Oh, and it's just back at this. So I think it was, where was it? Like, right. It was when we were talking to Sam Bennett here. Yeah, you could see, he's got where is it? We got the contract and organization. Obviously he's pumped because you just offered him a ton of money, but if we just go find it real quick, right there it is, league interest. So we don't know the top interested team or the contract and organization, right? Maybe he's super pumped about a contract, but not the org. So as long as you match that contract interest, you could probably get away with maybe undercutting him because he likes your team a little bit more. I mean, that's going to add so much level of complexity. It's just going to make franchise mode a lot more fun. I'm really, really encouraged by this, guys. I don't think the people on Twitter were lying at all when they said this. Obviously, everyone's like, give me GM Connected, but come on. I know. I want GM Connected too, but I'm at least going to appreciate what they've done for us before then. And I do think franchise mode needed a revamp. I'm very excited to have this. I just want advanced stats. I really do. You guys know I do, but this is awesome, guys. I'm pumped for this. It's a week away. I'm ready to go with my new franchise mode. I hope you guys are too. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. How did you feel about this franchise mode deep dive? Did you feel like it was good? Did they add things? Did they reel you in? If you were out, you heard the news about GM Connected not being in, and you were like, I'm out. Did this pull you back in? Or did this help you double down on your decision to go ahead and get the game and, you know, build the franchise the way you want to build it with some realistic things? Now, I wonder if this could be turned off, but oh man, this was this was great. I'm gonna give him an 8 out of 10 on this. It would have been better if they had advanced stats, and obviously it would have been a 20 out of 10 if it was GM Connected or Connected Franchise Mode. But I love the new revamped screen. It's awesome. I love the new trade clause and the interest, and I love the fact that I can talk to players about season goals at any point of the season. The conversations are not just, sorry, I'm not playing better, boss. It's like, dude, just go play better, right? Like, oh, it was so annoying. It might actually prompt me to leave like morale and all that stuff on. So I'm very excited to see how this goes and how it is when I get my hands on it. You guys will obviously see it on day one when I do drop my first franchise mode video. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see some more. And I will see you guys in the next one.
It's a free for all.